Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this regular session of the Binghamton City School District Board of Education. Today is Tuesday, April 15th, 2025. And as usual, we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you to our friends at MacArthur for leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And with that, that'll take us to our recognition for this month. Welcome to Paul Pesci, Principal of MacArthur Elementary, and this month's school recognition is for MacArthur.
All right, thank you, everybody. I'm here to talk a little bit about win time at MacArthur Elementary School. And I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to share more about how win time is supporting student growth at MacArthur. It really has become an essential part of our instructional day, and I plan on going into more details about how this Tier 2 intervention is working at our school. So WIN stands for What I Need. And as you can see, as I mentioned previously, it is a Tier 2 intervention, which basically means it's a small group intervention. So you've got Tier 1, which is all students in the core classroom, and then sometimes, a lot of times, we need to move into a Tier 2 intervention, which is more of a small group instructional setting for students who might need a little bit of additional support. But in addition to that, what's great about WIN is it's giving all students what they need. And so it's also providing some of our students with extensions, which is giving them an opportunity to continue to grow and progress forward. And all of these interventions are based on essential standards that we're focusing on, which I'll talk more about later on in the presentation. So when we built our SEP, which is our school comprehensive education plan, we really wanted to make one of our major focuses to be our win time. We felt like this was an essential part of what we wanted to do, and we knew that the district really wanted this to be a part of what all of our schools are doing at Binghamton City School District. So we really, when we were building our SEP, we wanted to provide timely, targeted support for students. And we wanted to focus on building strong Tier 2 systems. And that's exactly what we did. So when we were looking at building our SEP, we looked specifically at some of our data, and one of those points of data was our student interview results. And here are some of the things that they said. They consistently shared that they learn best when they can work in small groups, they get help from other teachers, and when they have more chances to understand something. So we really felt like when we were meeting with our SLT and kind of creating our SEP, we wanted that to be a big part of it. And we really listened to the students, and it made a lot of sense when we looked at that student interview data. So how did we get WIN off the ground? So basically, on a weekly basis, our PLT, our professional learning teams meet, and those are grade level teams that meet weekly to discuss specific data around our essential standards. So as you can see here, this is an example of a 5th grade WIN group meeting, PLT meeting, where you can see the essential standard is written there, and we're really focusing on which students need to move where. And what's been great about the whole process is, and as we've gotten better with it, is it's really a fluid sort of system where even on a daily basis, teachers are talking with one another and they're sharing kids and they might be moving. So if, for example, a student is in one group one day, they might have shown that they've mastered whatever skill that they're on, and they might be moving to a different group the very next day. So it's an opportunity to really kind of measure that growth and to really look at how things are going. And it gives teachers an opportunity to talk to one another about their instruction. And I think that's a really huge piece that we found really beneficial. So, targeted instruction in action. As you can see here, these are just a few examples of what it might look like depending on the grade level. So, for grade 1 in ELA, they might be working on mastering blends and diagrams. For grade 3 math, they might be solving multi-step word problems. And for grade 5, they could be determining the central idea of a text. So it depends on what essential standard we're talking about, and then we're really looking at specific skills within that essential standard to focus on within each of the WIN groups. And I didn't mention this before, but when we created the WIN groups and we created the schedule, we wanted to make sure that the groups were small. So we took a lot of our support staff and our interventionists, and they've been able to kind of be available during each grade level WIN time on a daily basis for both ELA and math, and they take groups every day along with the classroom teachers. So you can see that WIN is already supporting student growth, and this is just one example. If you look at the graph there, that is an example of our CFA data for second grade ELA. And you can start to see where the green has gotten a little bit bigger and the yellow is emerging. Red is obviously when they're not there yet. So we're starting to see that our instruction during WIN time and during our tier group 2 intervention is starting to work. And we're really starting to see growth, which is great to see. So that's a little bit about WIN. I just want to thank everybody for the continued support and how WIN is really helping us close gaps, build confidence, and meet kids where they are. And we're excited to keep growing this work at MacArthur. Thank you.
I don't know if anybody has any questions, but I also just wanted to thank Paul, being a newer elementary principal, for taking this piece on, and also just shifting from secondary down to elementary, because it's heavily wedded with instruction. It's also a process, the WIN process, that is promoted across the school district. So he just did a great job sharing what's happening, not just at MacArthur, but at all the buildings, and just going even deeper in terms of understanding, are we looking at skill gaps when we're doing our WIN groups? Are we looking at lack of understanding for a particular essential standard, and having those conversations just come out of our professional learning community time. So I really appreciate you taking something a little meatier on tonight in terms of talking about what we're doing to support students who haven't yet gotten to an expectation of instruction in math and ELA.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
The next item on the agenda is the first of the 2 public comment portions of the meeting. Would anybody like to come up and speak? If so, I'll read the rules, and if not, I can move on to the next item of business. Seeing none, we'll move on to approval of the minutes from the work session and the regular meeting held on March 18th, 2025. Could I have a motion to approve and accept the minutes? Moved by Eliza, seconded by Shante. All in favor? Aye. Unanimously approved. Takes us to the financial report for the month of March 2025. Are there any questions or comments from the board on anything within the financial report? Okay, Cynthia Wumbold here. If anybody has any questions, thank you for coming out. The expert, yes. Okay, next up will be item 7A, an update on the 2025-26 budget with Dr. Thompson and Dr. Dove.
Well, Jennifer gets up there to start the presentation. Still, I don't believe, I haven't checked my email, but no word on the state budget being passed. And as I had mentioned recently to the board, that there is a proposal in the Assembly to add more money to education. It's not part of the executive budget, it's not part of the Senate's ask, so it's highly unlikely that that will move forward. However, if the passed state budget does provide us with additional funding that would exceed what we currently have allocated in reserves, because it would be easy for us to just not use reserves, the total amount of spending would be made the same. And it happens, and I think I shared April 22nd in the board. For small cities, it's actually April 25th. And it happens before April 25th. We may be looking for another board meeting to change the total amount of the budget. So highly unlikely, and those are the words I'm going to quote Cynthia since she was here. We just wanted to make the board aware, and we felt that it was important to put in front of our taxpayers what we know, not what we might get, because it would look inflated that way. We want that to happen. So with that, I'll have, do you want to take the first slide, which is the same slide we start all of our budget presentations with, which is just to remind us of our commitments in the district. And then also, as we have been budgeting all along, wanting to do our best to maintain and enhance student opportunities, think about the long-term impacts, so we're not putting programs or people into places that we can't sustain. And of course, propose to the Board of Education a fiscally sound budget with a responsible tax levy. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Jennifer to go into a little more detail.
Okay, so we talked about these slides last time. But so the anticipated revenue for next year, you can see the amount coming in from the tax levy, the amount from other revenue, which again would be pilots, interest earnings, rentals, enrichment reimbursement through BOCES, state aid, and the appropriated reserves. Again, some of that paying the full cost of the ERF, employee retirement system. Appropriated fund balance, which again is the district savings, and we hope to not have to use that. And if we don't have to use it, we have it again for the next year. The appropriated fund balance that says vehicles there on the bottom, that was a one-time only expense for this current school year, which was getting the vans to use in the different buildings. So that now shows as a decrease for this next school year. So again, here's the state aid based on the executive proposal. We don't know yet, but so our foundation aid, again, is the biggest portion of our aid, and that is based on student counts, poverty measure, wealth factors. That's how that number gets calculated. The building aid is related to capital projects. You see an increase in that aid, and we also see an increase with debt service because they go hand in hand. The expenditure-driven aids would be BOCES, transportation, excess aid for special ed, high-cost special ed students, and instructional material aid, etc. So last time Angela Rogers was here, and she did an explanation of the tax levy. And again, this is a 10-year history of the tax levy. The 10-year average for Binghamton has been 1.4%, which includes the proposed 3.26 shift, that tax levy, which again will shift that average to 1.56% over 10 years. And again, Angela showed this picture and explained how the tax levy, how the money goes together to form the tax levy. And she talked about how having the two larger pilots that have ended are returning to the rolls. So these properties have been taxed now they will be taxed at 100%. So again, without the change in the pilots, the tax levy increase would have been 2.52, but because those pilots are coming back on, that increases the available amount. So here you see the maximum allowable tax levy limit, which then totals 3.26% increase. So again, in the summary, we reviewed this at our last meeting. The budget reduction process to date, we've reduced building and program budgets across the district by 10%, reduced contract services based on need and impact, shifted restorative practice services to BOCES, so that we'll gain aid on that in the following school year. We've shifted 3 buildings and grounds positions into the cafeteria fund, and we've reviewed class sizes and shifting needs to reduce positions through attrition. So again, when people were retiring, we looked at, do we need this position? Do we shift positions around? So we have not impacted class size. Class size still remains small, which was something that we're committed to. So just, again, looking at how we can be fiscally responsible. So personnel is our largest expense in the district. And so you see the reduction of $3.3 million in personnel, and then an additional $1 million in contract expenses, materials, and supplies. This is, again, a review from last time. Anticipated expenditures for the next school year. So again, in equipment, you see that $300, that was the band's, the one-year expense. Contractual expenses, those include unallocated insurance, contract transportation, utilities, and tuition outside of BOCES. The health insurance and the retirement, the ERS and the TRS, those look lower than normal. And the reason that's low percentage is because of the reduction of positions. Otherwise, those percentages would be much higher. And all other benefits that are towards the bottom, that includes workman's comp and dental expenses. So now, new for tonight is our first look at the three-part budget summary. So again, the three-part budget is, there are 3 parts. Administrative is one part, and the administrative part of the budget includes the cost of administrators for the buildings, the legal costs for the district, printing costs for the district, BOCES capital, and BOCES admin administration, liability insurances, etc. Then program is the second part of the budget, which is the largest portion, which would be all of the cost for instruction for our students. And then capital being a smaller portion, and that is all related to the capital projects, maintaining the buildings. So this is the 3-part budget summary in a little bit more detail. The other special items that's there towards the middle, that includes the BOCES capital project. Chrissy Choi and Rebecca Stone were here presenting on the BOCES capital project, and the region voted to approve it. And again, that increase for the BOCES capital project there will be offset with additional BOCES aid and the small amount that flows through the tax levy because of the BOCES capital project. So again, these are just more detailed, showing what I have just explained. So, like example, the operation and maintenance, those top 2 categories, there's a decrease, and part of that's because of shifting those 3 positions to the cafeteria fund, in addition to cost savings with contracts and supplies. So this slide shows our balanced budget, the surplus with the deficit. And this gives a picture of a contingency budget. If the budget does not pass and it had to go to contingency, that would be devastating for the district. And it just gives a picture of what that would mean, of the reduction that would have to happen. And again, contingency budgets are never good, and they're not good for the community, public, not allowed to use the public district spaces, and it impacts sports, it impacts a lot of different pieces. So we hope to have high public approval for the budget. And this is the timeline of the rest of the budget season. So tonight is the presentation of the budget, and then the budget hearing is May 6th, and then the budget vote is May 20th. Again, barring any changes that Dr. Thompson talked about earlier. Any questions?
I just had, oh, sorry, I can see behind the go.
Thank you for the update of the budget. And this is a question that I'm sure it's hard to give an answer to, but this existing tariff situation that we're faced with, I'm just thinking of our paper in terms of equipment, supplies, materials, what comes in here. Canada supplies a lot of our paper, as you know, and our paper budget in any school district is huge. So I guess what I'm saying is there any way to forecast with the tariff situation, maybe get an answer from BOCES, what that could look like? Could that change? I mean, this is what we're thinking, but maybe 3 or 4 months from now, it's going to be much higher for supplies, materials.
Cindy can certainly weigh into in terms of purchasing what BOCES is seeing. I would say that has been a conversation at the Capital Committee because we have larger goods coming in from all parts of the world. When you think of our parks from all over the world coming into America to build pieces, everything from turf to refrigerated units and furniture and so on. So that certainly is something that I know has been brought up. I'm thankful we purchased our vans last year, because I know the price of vehicles are projected to increase, particularly when the parts are built overseas. But beyond that, in terms of paper, I haven't heard that specifically. Does Cynthia hear anything?
I have not heard specifically for paper, where the tariffs are an ever evolving, daily situation, and certainly we're seeing. I've been copied on some emails where technology is being impacted, other things are being impacted. So we would look to just address that on a as needed, as happens basis. And it's just similar to if you have a significant increase in other areas, special education, for instance, you can have a special increase, definite increase in any given year. We would hope that we would have enough built in the overall budget to be able to handle that. But in the worst case scenarios, you would have the ability to use additional reserves. But I don't foresee that you would have to go that far, except to see what the true impact is.
Thank you.
Will that 10-year history chart of the taxes be in something that goes out in materials to the public?
We can absolutely do that. The fact in terms of what the average has been over the 10 years, it's definitely part of the draft message right now that will go out.
Yeah.
Do you think
I think
visual?
more information is helpful and visually, only because I think people's gut reaction, since it's a little more right now, will be, and right now everybody's just so concerned about money, period. I think the more doesn't hurt. I don't think it has to be huge, but I think it's helpful for people to be able to look themselves. To me, that made like a lot of sense, where I was like, oh, it's not so bad, you know, kind of thing.
Thank you, absolutely. We can look at to get that in our budget design.
Thank you.
Did you have another question, Lisa?
No.
Oh, I'll just.
No, I was trying to thank you, but.
Any other questions? Thank you. Next up, we have a couple of policies that are up for a third read and adoption when we vote on the general G resolutions later on this evening. One is 6560, determination of employee status, and 7223, advanced coursework. We had these last month and the month before that, so we certainly got a couple of go-arounds to take a look. Are there any questions on either of the two policies?
Steve, it's not a question, but I just want to make a comment that the advanced coursework of policy 7223, it really breaks down in a very nice way all the opportunities we're giving our students for advanced work. It lists all the wonderful programs we have. It's great for the kids. The AP program, IB, dual credit courses, it's all listed. For the community to see that, it's great for the students. It's also a great selling point for our district. That we're looking for kids to go beyond just Regents credit, that kind of thing. So that's well written. Thank you.
Thank you, and if I remember correctly, that was the rationale for the updating the policies to make sure it was inclusive of all the different things that we offer, so it's great that it has that. And it takes us to the second read on revised policy 7221, graduation policy, and there was a red line that had to do with students who were completing a GED and looking to walk in the ceremony. We looked at this for the first time last month. Are there any questions on 7221? Okay, next up, we'll move on to special reports, and first is a presentation on the Patriot Ambassador Program.
I'm going to join our PR.
We've barely seen you at all.
I know. I'd like to, as we kick this off, and Jennifer cues the presentation, I want to introduce to you our two fabulous public relations officers. I don't know if that's the exact title, but I forget what they're called. Close enough. Chris Whalen, who many of you may or may not know, and David Manovich, who's been here now for a while. Our original team of Christine and Carrie Gallagher. Carrie's now in the room, leading the department there, and Christine's leading the department at Targovosis. So really fabulous to be able to have the opportunity to work with these two wonderful individuals to support all of our social media and communications and so on. But as we're looking for the first slide to come up, I'll start it off. And so just to give you some history on the Patriot Ambassador Program. Back in 2018, 2019, I had this kind of idea, talking with Christina and Carrie at the time, about how can we reach portions of our community and have our community being the greatest ambassadors of our work. And that's in an effort to change perception and increase understanding. And so we brainstormed this concept of Patriot Ambassadors. And again, it started actually, launched in 2019. And we the focus was placed on naming our school district as a district of choice, where people would seek out and want to come here. And how do we get that message across? Not only from positive news that we share through public relations, but also, again, having our own teachers, our community, speaking out about the high quality of our teachers and what's happening in our buildings and all that we can do for kids. The concept was built on creating a path to connect and communicate directly with representatives from the community, beyond the Board of Education. So we, on average, have had about 15 ambassadors, and we try strategically to find individuals who live in different portions of the city. So the idea is that every other month, holding a meeting, we offer them a lunch, because many of them are working and they are stepping away from their work, and it's easier to kind of step away at lunchtime. And we're going to go through right now some of the things that we've discussed and what the objectives of the program. So I'm going to stop right now and turn it over to, I think, Chris, who's going to take it. Take us up.
So overall, there are three main goals that we have with the Patriot Ambassador Program. The first thing is to provide insight into the public perception of our district. We want to know what the overall feel the community is on what they view us as and how we're doing in educating our students. And we want to know that so that we can strategically form initiatives and things of that nature to enforce the good opinions of us and to dispel the negative opinions that might be out in the community. We also use them as a sounding board for the different ideas and initiatives that we undertake beforehand, because it's really good to have people who aren't necessarily in our exact arena. Chris and I were in public relations sort of area. They're not. They're parents. They're business owners. They're people who are out in the community who are going to be on the receiving end of these initiatives and ideas that we have. So we like to hear what they have to say before we actually go and do it, so that we can sort of form that initiative around what the people who are actually going to be benefiting from it. And then we want people to be an ally and advocate for the district. We don't want people who are just going to show up and be like, all right, cool, awesome, good job. We want people who are going to lead the Patriot Ambassador meeting, and then they're going to really be a champion for the district and our students and the wonderful work that we're all doing here.
So to speak a little bit more about the objectives and what David discussed, to give you a better idea, we asked that our ambassadors speak highly of the district. They all have a vested interest in this place in one way or another, whether they're, and David will talk a little bit about who they are, but whether they're alumni or business owners or parents, or some of them wear multiple hats. They have a vested interest, so by them speaking highly of the district and the things that our schools and teachers and staff are doing really helps to make it more real for people. I think if I can pat David and I on the back, I think we do a pretty good job with social media and getting good stories out in the traditional media, but really where we find that the biggest difference is made is word of mouth. I mean, when you hear stories and positive things from people that you talk to the most and people that you trust the most, that really goes a long way to complement the work that David and I try to do on a daily basis. Be the eyes and ears out there in the community. We have some very engaged Patriot ambassadors who are not afraid to text me at, I would say all hours, but certainly beyond business hours to let me know about things that they heard or were told by someone else, to get that on our radar, and that then we can share either, yeah, that's true and this is why it's true, or no, that's not correct and here's the real story. Which is a perfect segue into dispelling rumors and false information. I think all of us have been in and around this district long enough to know that unfortunately sometimes things that are said out in the community are blatantly untrue about the things that happen on a daily basis in our schools. And again, because these individuals talk to people at work and within their social circles, it gives them an opportunity to not just tell people what they see on a news story or on a social media post, but from their own mouths, from people that, again, they know and trust. And then we ask them to attend the events that we do, not only our bigger highlight events like our school concerts and plays and our sporting events, but other community events that we do. We'll talk a little bit about some of the other things that we have going on through the Patriot Ambassadors, and we hope that they help us not only promote them, but be a part of them as well. And then, of course, share their experiences with all these things that they do and that they're a part of within the family of the Binghamton District.
So in finding individuals to be on the Patriot Ambassadors, we are really looking for people who have very strong ties to the district and our community as a whole. We try to, you can see the amount of the different walks of life that people have down below, but we really, at the crux of it, we just want people who are here in the community who have, as Chris mentioned, a vested interest in our area. An influential voice, we want, as kind of goes back to, we want people to be advocates for the district. We want people to, use their influence within their circles to, again, advocate for the district. Those who have a vested interest in the success of our students and our schools. We obviously have parents on there. They definitely have a vested interest in the success of the students, but valuable insight and public perception of the district. It kind of goes back to, we want to know what the overall pulse of, what people feel the district is doing, and that we can, strategically address that. Over the course of the program, we've had a lot of different types of people from different walks of life. We've had parents, teachers, alumni, business owners, people in different career fields. Real estate agencies, that one's been really interesting just for me hopping on in, because I know Laura, she is a real estate agent, and she has really good insight into what people are looking for when they're moving into a community. And so I know that's opened my eyes, and I'm sure theirs as well. Those who work at hospitals, work at Binghamton University and SUNY Broome, as we want to have a good connection with them as possible. Hopefully get some of the graduates who might not be from our area, but who are attending school here. Hopefully they stay afterwards. So it's good to know that we have people in those higher learning institutions that can give us some insight. Local and county government, Chris is one of them. When he was in the county, he was a Patriot Ambassador before he ever worked here. So we roped him in that way. And community partners, those that we work with. I know Dr. Yell Cares has been at a couple meetings so far this year, and it's nice to have not just the people who are like parents and teachers, but those who we do work with and have a unique perspective, both in our work and with people who they serve on a daily basis as well.
So in terms of the things we discussed, again, we discuss regular day-to-day happenings that either the ambassadors have experienced or hearing about. But then we look at them to assist us not only in promoting and attending events, but helping us, quite frankly, create them as well. Now, the Harbor Stands Community Cleanup is something that's coming up. Mark your calendars, May 17th. And they've been really helpful in us getting the word out. We've had some of them participate in that cleanup. The community, Binghamton Community Arts and Athletics Foundation Leaders Day, that was the inaugural event last year, went really well. And I'm assuming we're hosting it again this year. I haven't heard from Eric, but that's another one that, again, a community-wide event that they can help us promote. To the point David made about some of the people that are on, we have this one new gentleman, Jay Harrison is his name, from SUNY Broome, who's been a really great addition, and he's helping us connect with events that we don't know about. SUNY Broome has hosted some events lately that he tapped us into, and we're able to get it out into our networks as well. So it's a two-way street. It's not just us looking for them to help us get our good word out, but we can also help them promote things that they're doing. So that's a really nice aspect of this program too. And then I think something that's been really, again, from someone who was a former Patriot Ambassador before I started working with the district, I think this last bullet is something that was really helpful. They kind of are, for lack of a better term, guinea pigs. That's not really a great term to use, but they help us kind of test new programs and new features out that we're using. So like when we launched our new website, the new app, and a whole communications audit that we had a couple years ago. Again, I was a Patriot Ambassador, and I got to be one of the first people to kind of, play in the sandbox with that stuff. So it was really cool to be able to use them, again, as real people who are going to be using and benefiting from this information. They can kind of get a first hand on it and help us maybe work out any kinks in the process.
So, Chris mentioned several of these, but I just wanted to weigh in terms of three things that happened in the past that have been really hugely beneficial to sit in front of the group of individuals and talk through and ask, what are you hearing? For example, the introduction of our weapons detection system at Binghamton High School. We were the first to do it in the area, and we did it in a time when we needed to, and we felt compelled that we could provide this additional safety, but also understood that people were going to have different perceptions of what this was going to look and feel like. And so to be able to sit down and explain the why at the time, bring on questions, like it is an environment that is fail-safe and no one's going to be offended by saying anything. And they developed that with the individual Patriot Ambassadors. But again, they may be at church, in the grocery store, maybe they're at an event with their children outside of school and someone starts talking about it, they had that information to say, no, this is why and this is what it really does. The FIN partners for the board, we had conducted a communications audit back in 2023. And as a result of that audit, it let us know what are some areas that we could do better in or expand upon. We brought the results of the audit to the Patriot Ambassadors and said, here are some of the suggestions. What are your thoughts? How do we actualize this and how do we get that to be a leverage? They also participated as being part of the interview team because they had also been engaged in what we were doing. And then finally, I think the Roosevelt Fund is another great example. They were huge advocates for understanding the why behind needing this new building. And they can say sometimes things that we can't say. We can't go out and say, well, yes, for the Roosevelt project, but they can, particularly when they know and are supportive of an initiative. So I can't speak highly enough about their commitment. This is, volunteer work, and they're interested.
I think the individuals who have children across multiple grade levels, multiple buildings, also provide a great insight because they're transition. And sometimes they bring forward topics that weren't on the agenda, but again, as David and Chris said, it's things that they're hearing about and they just want clarity around. And I think it's also given them pause that before they maybe jump to a conclusion, to say, I can actually find out, the answer, or if you're interested, contact this person may have the answer as well. So they've been a great support. So we'll stop there and see if they have any questions about the program.
I want to just commend Chris and David. You're doing remarkable work here. And this is just one example of taking it further. Just to mention, over the years, the superintendent knows, we've tried bits and pieces of doing this, but nothing this formal. Larry Casson, years ago, in the 90s, he would bring, professional groups in, serve them breakfast. They would, are they touring the schools as well? Are you doing some touring when you bring in the ambassadors?
They actually can. I think finishing capital projects would be a great opportunity when we do the major changes at the high school, for example.
But here's the point I want to make. We get judged from the outside and perceptions of the community. Something goes wrong, that kind of thing. Don't go to Binghamton, go somewhere else. But once people, over the years, when people come into this district and they visit us and they hear from you, they are so convinced that this is a good place. It changes their whole perspective, seeing from inside, not outside. So again, the more you can show them the programs we're doing, highly recommend touring the schools. I was at the high school, used to take them. They were totally amazed. They couldn't believe what they saw. We're not a dropout factory. We're a school that's looking to advance the children. And this will hopefully bring families to our district. Instead of going elsewhere, this ambassador program will reap big benefits for us. So thank you for doing it. It's hard work, but it's going to pay off in the end. Thank you.
I would like to, I attended an ambassador's meeting, and I was struck by two things. One is that there are many perceptions of the school district that are unfortunate. And what I would like to suggest is that the ambassador group actually grow in its context, so that you have an official group that are the ambassadors that people can begin to know. And this isn't easy to do because our community is a dichotomy of very tech-savvy people and then people like my age who are not tech-savvy at all. But if the ambassadors could begin to be a real a group that people can begin to identify, and also a group that they can come to when they have frustrations. Because a lot of times the communication between the community and even our board is not what it could be. And I think the ambassadors actually have a chance to be that liaison. They could come. When I was there, I invited them to come to board meetings to give us some of their insights. I think if we could set up a more formal and grow this thing, because we have a lot of things that we have to debunk in this community. And nobody can do that better than the ambassadors because they see the good part too. But not to be afraid to talk about the bad part. And that's where ambassadors would be awesome.
So you just raised a good point. We don't have on our website that here are our Patriot ambassadors and here's their name and contact information. We can sort of go that board group to say, would you like to be identified? You're volunteering for this. And advocate that way. It also reminds me of, I once went to one of our evening programs at the high school, and what I thought was brilliant is they had grade level and parent ambassadors. Maybe with the principal at the time, Dr. Jenkins. If you're an incoming, freshman, here's a parent who had a freshman last year who's named the ambassador that you can reach out if you have a question. Same kind of concept, I think, that you're speaking to. I'm also wondering the extent to which we have buildings. I know at Franklin, Counselor had a great program that is still existing of ambassadors, like student ambassadors. The student comes to school, that student would give them the tour, welcome them, and those kinds of things. And they exist throughout the district. It would be awesome for our ambassadors to meet our student ambassadors, to get to know them and just what's your role and what's my role and so on. So. Good thoughts. We'll bring that up next meeting. I love it.
Yeah, this presentation, not surprisingly, resonated with me on a number of levels, among them working full-time in marketing and just thinking about programs like this, smart organizations do things like this. And so at the university, we just got done with a multi-year, hugely successful comprehensive gifts campaign. And one of the first things that was done by the leadership after deciding that they wanted to embark on this initiative was to form a committee of champions, because they realized that they were going to need people to go out and help make the case for the university in a way that it would resonate a little bit more strongly than just from the administration itself, when it's coming from alumni and donors, real people out in the community. As we have the Patriot Ambassadors, it really can be more meaningful than from me as the board president or anybody in the administration. And so it's great to see that this work is being done and people are embracing it. And we had a lot of this sort of activity going on around the state championship. And so I go on Facebook and just type in the search bar, Binghamton State Champions. And poof, all these people, they weren't even in my circle, but their content was visible and I could see just people sharing videos, pictures, and they're telling the story. They do it around a big event like that, but for the Roosevelt Vote or things in the everyday, we don't see as much of that. So it's great to have people that are committed to telling that story. And when you think about people who move into the city, and Albert likes to say the district of choice, and I think that's a great vision as a guiding star for us. And you move into the city, you send your kids to the schools, and you're making a consumer choice, whether you realize it or not. And we want to feel good about the consumer choices that you make, whether it's buying a car or buying some big ticket item and committing to live somewhere is certainly a big deal. And this effort, I think, is just fabulous. And just touching on one point that was on one of the two previous slides, the communications audit. That was something that I had recommended after we went through the feasibility study. And it wasn't any statement about what I felt was a shortcoming in the communications products we were putting out. We put out a tremendous volume of materials. But one of the things I felt really strongly about was engaging in leadership through more of a marketing lens and just sort of looking big picture and saying, you're rolling out with an initiative, and it's not just like where are the different pieces going to be deployed, but it's how things get messaged out. And sometimes if things get sent out in the wrong order, or the wrong information gets out, and the rumor mill is crazy sometimes, it can really just throw a wrench in what it is that you're trying to do. And so putting that extra thought into it, we got some great advisement. And it reinforced what I felt and others in the district felt, that we put out great communications. It was just sort of refining the methods and I think going a little bit more single stream in some of the messaging pieces that we put out, just because it can be overwhelming. And so if it's easier for somebody to grasp and understand it out in the public, it's a lot harder for that misinformation to really take hold. So I just want to compliment all the great work that you're doing day in and day out, whether it's the major things like the basketball or the Roosevelt Vote, or just things in the everyday. Just like, I love even the cool stuff I see on social media, that what the kids are doing in the classrooms, and they get dressed up in costume, they do something musical or it's fun, and just like, it's really fun to see, just these images of kids really seeming to genuinely enjoy the school environment. So thank you very much for all of that.
I think overall, there's a great energy to all of our social media. And I just had a question. How long do people serve, as an ambassador? Or it's just as they
their
can?
choice. It's really at their choice. I think each year we launch, some people will say, yeah, I'll be here this year. Some will say, I've taken on other responsibilities. I can't be part of this. We keep a running list so we can circle back to people.
And at the end of each year, we do get with the ambassadors, and usually the last meeting, at the end, we talk about, hey, is there anybody that would be a good candidate to be an ambassador, and we, have them leave name, contact information if possible. And, when we're talking about the different things that we're doing, the different people we're interacting with in and outside the district, sometimes Dr. Thompson will be like, oh, they would make a good Patriot ambassador. So then, so that's another way as well. So.
And then I don't know if it would fit this or something else, but I was just thinking about it because I'm helping plan our 40th class reunion. But it seems like alumni, and as we come to reunions, I'm even surprised by, oh, I know this person was in town, or that person, and so I don't know if there's a way to, somehow coordinate or get some of that information.
Yeah.
Because those might be some people who are good for Patriot ambassadors or to help build it.
That's a great suggestion. We can certainly look at some of those lists. We have a directory.
Okay.
I don't think what the last year was published, but it indicates with the last place where people live, so maybe we can see all the people who are still living in the area. So I think that's a great suggestion. And maybe even connect, put a flyer together, if you're interested in being an
Like
ambassador.
for the, yeah.
We typically, we try to do it in person, we bring luncheon, if people have conflicts, we have let them Zoom in, because it's really about the messaging here locally. So and I say that
No, you
because
want local people.
local people.
Yeah.
I say that because some of the foundations that I serve on have people living in Boston and all over the place, even though they're trying to support local work. So for this, you really have to be local, I think, to make it effective. Not that I would turn somebody down who wanted to join, and share it across the world, but yeah, a great suggestion.
Thank you.
One thing I would like to add too, if you're looking for new ambassadors, please let them know that these guys provide a really great lunch.
That's true.
We make it ourselves.
Time consuming, yes. No, it's really good.
Anything else? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next presentation is on the shared decision-making plan. We'll toss it back to Dr. Bell.
Okay, so the shared decision-making plan gets reviewed and updated every 2 years, and it goes to the board for adoption. So that is what you have in front of you. So I just wanted to give you some context for this plan in case you are new to the shared decision-making planning process. So the shared decision-making is part of the Commissioner's Regulations 100.11. And so we have an Excellence in Academics Committee that is a district team that is charged with promoting school-based planning and shared decision-making in each of the buildings to ensure that we are in compliance with that regulation. So you can see the core members of the Excellence in Academics Committee, and Shantae being our star member from the board. Yay! Other guests is here as well. Yay, we have fun. So just some history of shared leadership. In 1991, the district Excellence in Academics Committee began working in cooperation with the 10 buildings to establish the implementation of shared decision-making in accordance with the regulations that had come out in 1991. So it's a collaborative process, and the committee overviews the process in each building, ensuring that each building has a shared decision-making team that serves as a site-based decision-making team and creates a decision-making plan. So again, the responsibilities of the Excellence in Academics Committee, the district level committee, is making sure that all of the buildings follow the shared decision-making process as articulated in the plan that you have in front of you. Educational issues that are subject to cooperative planning include all of these areas. And you can see the one at the bottom is highlighted because that one really encompasses everything else on this list. And the School Comprehensive Education Plan, the SEP process, Paul gave an example of something that's in their SEP plan tonight when he shared the WIN process, what I need now. Each year, the shared leadership teams in each building complete a 10-step shared leadership team and planning process. And it includes the names of the members, that the role in the building and how they're solicited, because fair representation from all stakeholders is part of the process. It includes the communication chain when the shared leadership team teams meet. They're a representation of constituent groups, and so the plan needs to articulate how is information received from the constituent groups, and how is it the information and the decisions made at each meeting, how are those shared back out with everybody. So again, this is the cover page of the school improvement process. And again, the school improvement focus areas are around academics, attendance, behavior, and family engagement. And annually, we have the climate and culture surveys that, from our students, our staff, and our families, that help to inform the process and the planning. And again, Paul gave a great example of that. That their students said that they like to learn in small groups, and so that helped to inform their goal around win time with small group instruction. Any questions about the shared leadership process, the role of the shared leadership teams, the role of the excellence in education?
The only thing I want to say, and I think I say this every time you present this, is that I'm really proud of our commitment to this work. There are many districts, even though it's in the commission's regulation, that don't adhere to having a structure, a formal structure in a building where there's regular meetings and understanding of the types of topics that can be brought forth, things like budget, things like school improvement, that are to have input, not only from the teachers in that building, but also the aides and the clerical and the custodians. There's a communication tree that's established so that people can be communicated with around initiatives or things that are happening. So, also the idea of it being part of the teacher's contract, I think also is fantastic, because it lives there and it should be enacted. And so we've embraced that opportunity. It has changed over the years. I mean, I know when I was a teacher, we used to have EAA, and it was bring your best work, and you might get more money added to your budget, kinds of things. It was kind of interesting, more competitive. But I think looking at it from the lens of school improvement has certainly helped us with having a consistent structure and a voice in a way that teachers understand, what's happening and have direct input into it. So there's a really compliment for the district as a whole. And it's also interesting the state's perspective on this. Like, a superintendent calls and says, "What portal are we supposed to submit this in?" Because you're supposed to go through the process, and there's like a portal, and I don't think anybody works in that office anymore. But man, that file something.
It's just good to see, and the superintendent just commented on it. I just wanted to mention those people that were part of this back in '91. It was 2 years. We were the first district in New York State to do this, K through 12. It was huge. We worked with Cornell University for 2 years, a tremendous amount of meetings in the evening. It was just a wonderful process. But I think a lot of our people that have retired, who would listen, we present tonight, would be thrilled that it's still continuing. There's a lot of effort, a lot of hard work went into this. It wasn't easy. And to bring all the voices to the table, and when you see that teachers have an input in decision making, it's not just administration. It's a collective group of voices at the table. It's wonderful stuff.
I think the hardest part, quite frankly, is getting a true parent representative.
Yeah,
for a long time, we get the aide who's also a parent, or a teacher who's also, as a parent representative. And from accountability side, when they say you need to have engagement, they're very strict about it. It can't be that. You got to have a peer parent. So that can be challenging at times. I think our parent mentors help because they are peer parents, and they can something that they are willing to serve in that role. But that can be because they're often held either during the day or right after school. It's not really convenient for families to miss out on work to be part of the book. So that's the only other thing I would add.
I just want to add to it being the board representative on the committee and a new parent in the district. I really enjoy being a part of the committee and the dialogue that, is had across the room at each meeting. I might want to see it next year. Yay!
It's great stuff. Great stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Move on to new business superintendent's recommendations, certified C resolutions. Could I have a motion, please, on resolution C1 through C9? Moved by Carrie, seconded by Shante. We have a roll call vote, please.
Ms. Callahan?
Yes.
Ms. Middleton?
Yes.
Dr. Penna?
Yes.
Ms. Turner?
Yes.
Mrs. Button? Yes. Mr. Seepersod?
Yes. Certified stipend CS resolutions, only one of them, CS1. Could I have a motion on CS1, please? Moved by Albert, seconded by, I'll second. We can proceed to a roll call vote, sorry, it's like half a second to analyze it.
Ms. Callahan?
Yes.
Ms. Middleton?
Yes.
Dr. Penna?
Yes.
Ms. Turner?
Yes.
Mrs. Button? Yes. Mr. Seepersod?
Yes. Non-certified NC resolutions, could I have a motion, please, on resolutions NC1 through NC6? Moved by Eliza, seconded by Mary Ann. And could I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Callahan?
Yes.
Ms. Middleton?
Yes.
Dr. Penna?
Yes.
Ms. Turner?
Yes.
Mrs. Button? Yes. Mr. Seepersod?
Yes. And general G resolutions, could I have a motion, please, on resolutions G1 through G21? Moved by Liza, and I'll second. Just want to see if there's anything that's being read out loud. There's a donation that is, that's G9. Okay. Resolution 2025-4-G9, donations. Resolved upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, Board of Education accepts the monetary donations listed below, and we extend our sincerest appreciation. Holbert Engineering, $1,000, Data Automation, $1,000, LaChase, $500, and the Community Foundation for South Central New York, the Binghamton Arts and Athletics Community Fund, $1,000. And being further resolved that the Board of Education approves an increase to the 2024-25 General Fund appropriation in the amounts and accounts listed above. Yeah, I think we're ready to proceed to a roll call vote.
Ms. Callahan?
Yes.
Ms. Middleton?
Yes.
Dr. Penna?
Yes.
Ms. Turner?
Yes.
Mrs. Button? Yes. Mr. Seepersod?
Yes. Takes us to updates from the superintendent.
Thank you. I just have a few. First, I just want to thank publicly all of our pre-K through 8th grade teachers. Today was the first day of testing. Well, actually, it was the third day of testing, technically, because we had day 1 failure, day 2 failure last week. But we were able to successfully have testing take place today. And so I always want to recognize all the efforts that go into it. Now, there's the pressure on those ELA and math teachers in grades 3 through 8. But we know that everything that everyone does contributes to the success of our students. And I thank them, and also the administration for what they go through when something doesn't go well. I did forward a email to our district superintendent talking about the impact that the failure of the technology had on us, and particularly having to do consecutive days. You know, some districts go, oh, it's just an inconvenience. Not for our kids. I mean, our kids really were, they felt like they let their teachers, the teachers down, and themselves down, when they could be successful to get in, let alone performing, particularly for our youngest students. So that message was sent to her. I also sent to Small Cities Association and asked to share with the commissioner at the next meeting. At least they could collect the data to see if there's an impact. My concern was that we had such high level of engagement and excitement about it. I almost felt like the year we were preparing for state tests during COVID, we were like, we're going to knock this out of the ballpark, and we didn't have the test. But I get concerned with the frustration leading to a parent saying, you know what, we're just going to opt you out and don't take it this year. That would hurt us even more. So we're collecting all that data. I'll share that with the board. You know, what came in before the last week, and then what actually happened today and tomorrow with ELA and what happens with math. We can have that kind of an impact. So I thank you. I also just wanted to mention we had discussion and Sonia will do some surveying of availability of having another board meeting retreat in May, the 21st, before the certification of the vote. That's still available to people. We'll check into that for the purpose of talking about board goals and development. So I just wanted to put that on everyone's radar. And then lastly, I just want to give a shout out to our modern band concert. So we had our first annual modern band concert. It's a course that just started, I don't know if it was this year or last year, I've had conversations with very, very recently. And they had enough momentum to have a concert at Binghamton High School. There were 3 or 4 different bands, that performed. One of which is on Spotify. You can actually find them. Like they've produced their own music, which is pretty cool. What I thought was really fantastic was this was a slice of Binghamton High School that I know I haven't seen before. I go to concerts, I go to all the fine arts events. These are little bits and pieces of the students engaged in that, and then some who don't play an instrument for us all, but play electric guitar out in their, I'm gonna say garage because that's a very biased perspective, basement, neighbor's house, I don't know, someplace. And they were rocking it, and they played like Santana. They were playing songs that I knew, so I was even more thrilled. And got up and danced with some teachers up front. The teacher, Ken Starr, was phenomenal. He also was a pep band. Invited the students in the audience to come up front. It was a little bit of a mosh pit there for a few minutes, to be quite frank. I was like, wanting to pull up, but kept playing audience. And they just thoroughly enjoyed it. And we're so proud to be on that stage, their high school stage, and performing. So I can't wait to see what comes from this, particularly when we get our recording studio fully installed in the high school. It's just going to be tremendous, but it was a great night. I'm proud of Ken's work and the students. The only other thing I would say, because we're moving into agenda items, is not on the agenda. Like Sonia and I have been waiting for school boards to come out with more information on student school board members. We have a student school board member, we put this in place decades ago, but that's going to become part of the requirement of school boards next year. And so I think the webinar is before May 6th, isn't it, in April?
Yes.
And so it's coming up. So I'm be sitting on that webinar, and I'd like to propose that as an agenda item, and maybe have our student board member be engaged in that conversation. It's a requirement to be on the board, but are there other things, other ways we'd like to see that student board member engaged next year? It'd be a nice opportunity to have that discussion at the same time and share what's going on at the webinar. So, if everyone's in agreement with that. So yeah, since our agenda is really budget.
Great, thank you. Our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, May 6th, and we will have East Middle School for the school recognition and the public hearing on 2025-2026 budget, and the election is Tuesday, May 20th. And with that, I'll call for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Gary, seconded by Albert. All in favor? Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Can I mention one more thing? Our next board meeting, May 6th. Prior to that, it's going to be our recognition of faculty, our 10-year or 20 years of service. So we'll send out reminders. It starts at 4:30. So you can, and there's great appetizers. It's a great job with that. And the culinary students will be serving us. So I really encourage you to be able to stop by and right before the board meeting. We'll give the certificates to one of the middle, so that if you come at 5 o'clock, 5:15, if you're able to get here, you can join me.